Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I don't know what time it is at your place, but good evening and welcome to the first day of class, cohorts XIII. Yes, the 13th cohort. It's so great to have you all join us. We have more people joining in. Please, as you come in, write your names in the chat box as you want them on your certificates. Attendance is very, very important because at the end of the day, we won't want to hear I attended class and I didn't get certificates. We won't want to hear that. So it's very important you write your name on your chat box. And also, please make use of your name on your Zoom, not Infinix, whatever number or what. Just make use of your name. It's very important we have that. So we are just going to have 5 minutes for other people to join in. Okay, 4 more minutes for other people to join in. And then we kickstart. Please, the facilitator is already here. So we should all be attentive. 4 minutes and then we start. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chalia. And I think in the 5 minutes we have, it will be only right that instead of keeping quiet, we kind of give them a little brief before this. So the Electoral College is strictly non-partisan, and we need to understand that. Oh, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Kuni Lawal, Executive Director, Electoral College Nigeria. What will happen in the college is that we feel that most paramount is political literacy. There's a lot of conversations we have across the board or the divide, and the college found the need to educate Nigerians for free. This, we need to also let you know that the college also doesn't function with grants. It's just a group of Nigerians who are really committed and dedicated. Even our workforce, this is the 13th cohort, our workforce is built from Lisa, who's of course the third cohort, Chalia, who's I think cohort 9, Maureen, who's cohort 1, Adishola, a lot of people you'll be meeting across, even some of your facilitators are part of the Electoral College cohorts, past cohorts. So what we're trying to do is build something known as a very politerate society. By politerate, we mean a society which is politically literate. Now, no democracy can survive without people being politically literate. So our Deputy Executive Director is handling today's course, which is an introduction to politeracy and governance. And over time, she will be explaining what exactly the college is about, what courses you're going to have to deal with. She's also going to be exposing, the intricacies of the course, what exactly you're going to go in. So that I don't jump in and take what is Lisa's. I hope you enjoy your time with us. We would appreciate you being very cordial. The college is big on character. Don't try and give us any hot takes or any hot answers. It will not be tolerated here. We also do not tolerate ethnic bias. That also would not be. I'm making this clear from the beginning because we've had calls over time that people have used ethnic slurs, and that is not tolerated here. It will be met by extreme expulsion. I must make it clear here as the executive director of the Electoral College, we do not mind if we graduate 2 people. We are not in a thirst for 100 people to certificates. We know what we want to graduate. We know the kind of people we want to see. So of course, every opinion is welcome, but this is critical to everything. Remember, as guaranteed is your freedom of expression. Remember that your freedom of expression terminates where its own freedom infringes on the freedoms of expression, and the freedoms of or the rights of every other individual. So your comments must be, of course, moderate. We are here to answer every question. We're here to help you through the whole system. It is supposed to be an interesting ride, and I know that given the time and you give the college, you're about to go on probably one of the most interesting political adventures that has been pulled virtually. No, let me not say in the world. I don't need to sound arrogant. but in the world. So I'd like to thank you for your time, and I look forward to having a great class. This class, attendance will be taken. We are marking attendance from now. Thank you, everyone, and I look forward to the class ahead.
Thank you very much, Edie. That was Edie, and subsequently we'll have him in class. Yes. So right about now, I'll be introducing the facilitator for today's class, which should be taking us in the introduction to politeracy.
Hello, is it me or Chalia is not audible? Hello?
I think we lost her. She stopped talking. Yes, I think we lost her.
Okay, so I would give a brief profile, even though I don't have anything to read. So, hello, Charlie, we can't hear you. It seems there's a little issue on your end.
Yeah.
Charlie, are you there? Okay. In the absence of Charlie being here, I'll proceed to
I think I can just jump in easy.
No, let me there's no problem. So today it will be an honor to have the ED reading the bio of the DED. So Wumi Lisa Hassan Bello is a girl child advocate and a political enthusiast, a graduate of biochemistry with a PhD in psychology. She has worked with several reputable organizations in Nigeria, including Heritage Bank, Dan Hausawa Media Nigeria, and Ray Power FM. She's currently the co-founder of Elspeak Media Company, a company that offers consultancy in publishing services. She's also a founder of Walk Against Rape and Sexual Abuse, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping victims of rape and sexual abuse. Her work with the Electoral College spans across 3 years and has translated into the political education of over 9,000 persons. She currently serves as the college's Deputy Executive Director, Politeracy. Wumi Hassan Bello is an avid reader, writer, and lover of God. She's happily married and blessed with 2 energetic youngsters. So, 13th cohort, I'd like to welcome Lisa, who I'd like to call the mommy of all cohorts because she's the Deputy Executive Director in charge of political literacy. Lisa, it's of course a pleasure and more than a lot to welcome you to this 13th cohort. And I look forward to your conversations with them. Thank you very much. And before I close up and hand Lisa officially the chance to speak, Lisa is known as the mommy of every cohort. I'm known as the Hitler. So get used to it. I'm the bad guy. Lisa, thank you. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Edie. That was a privilege. I got my introduction from the executive director himself. That's awesome. Good evening, everyone. It's good to have you here. Mr. Kunle has said a lot of what you need to know about the Electoral College, but I officially welcome you on behalf of the college to the 13th cohort. This is the 13th time that we're doing this, and this is cohort XII. We're glad to have you on board, and it's going to be an interesting ride. You know, when Edie was saying that it's the best course in the world, that was not sounding arrogant. He's actually very correct. This is going to be an experience of a lifetime. So I will urge us all to give it the best we can. This course was free, and there has been a lot that has been put together to make this a success. So please give it all you have. Be committed. As it was said, you need 75% of attendance for you to be able to get a certificate at the end of the course. I need 80% of participation for you to be able to qualify for a certificate. So it's not just about registering for the course, you have to participate fully. And we'll be sharing you all to different pseudo-political parties that should kick off by tomorrow to Sunday, where you will simulate real-life political environment so that you learn on the job. It's not going to be just theory, it's going to be practical. You're going to organize campaigns, you're going to have elections, you're going to vote for your governors, your presidents, and all that. So it's going to be, honestly, it's going to be a life-changing experience, if I may use that phrase, really. So welcome again. I'll be taking the course Introduction to Politeracy. Introduction to Politeracy and Governance. We have 26 courses in the course of this course, the Politeracy and Governance 101 course. We have different courses. We have courses that range from governance and corruption to media and democracy to inclusion for people living with disabilities, the youths, the females. It's an all-round course. We have course on leadership. We have course on national ethics and integrity. So it's a full bouquet, I can assure you. It's a course that when you're done, you're going to know that you truly passed through Electoral College. So once again, you're welcome. I'll be sharing my slide right about now. Okay, awesome. So we're going to be talking about just a brief introduction to politeracy and governance. Like I said, we have a lot of courses that are going to cover the different aspects in depth. You know, we're going to look at the executive, the local government, the legislative, the judiciary, political parties. We're going to look at all that in depth. So what I'm here to do this evening is just to give you a tip of the iceberg of what to expect during the duration of this course, right? So, introduction to politeracy and governance. What exactly is politeracy? Politeracy, simply put, is the education of the electorate on governance systems and processes so that they know what to demand of elected officials. Politeracy is gotten from two words, that's politics and literacy. We all know what those two words mean individually. So adding them together is politeracy, you know, getting educated in politics and governance so that you know what to demand of elected officials. The truth is that if you don't know something, you're as good as, you know, you really cannot demand what your rights are. You really cannot know what to even expect. That's why when the barest minimum is done, you feel so grateful, you know, because you don't even know what the standard. Okay, sorry about that. I think my network cut me off briefly. All right. So for example, how many of us actually know the criteria for election? Well, according to, you know, the constitution that we have, which ED always calls the Bible of every Nigerian, that you need to have it, you need to know it, says that a person shall be qualified for election if he has been educated to at least school certificate level or its equivalent, and he or she is a member of a political party and is sponsored by that party. So those are the requirements for you to be qualified for an election. And for you to be qualified for the office of the president, you have to be a citizen by birth. You have to have attained the age of 40 years. You have to be a member of a political party. You have to be educated to at least school certificate levels. These are some of the things that you should know, you know, as a Nigerian, so that if someone comes to contest and they don't qualify, they don't meet all those criteria, you're going to know that, okay, this person, you don't meet the criteria according to the Constitution. And then you can also be disqualified for an election if you have voluntarily acquired the citizenship of another country apart from Nigeria, if you're judged to be a lunatic according to a law in Nigeria, if you're under a sentence of death, if you've been judged to be bankrupt, if you've been declared to be bankrupt, or if you're in the public service and you've not resigned or retired before 30 days of the date of election. So these are some of the things that everybody should know. But funny enough, if you ask the average Nigerian, these are things that a lot of people do not know. So we're going to be looking next at the three arms of government. The three arms of government, which are, I think my network is a bit slow, but I'm sure the slide will come up. Okay, which are, sorry about this. My network is, okay. Please confirm that my slide is showing. It's not showing here. Hello, Charlie or Maureen. Is my slide up?
Yes, my sis.
Okay, awesome. All right. So now we're going to methods for political literacy. How do we propagate political literacy in Nigeria? The first is formal education, which is similar to what we're doing right now, where you go to get educated about politics, about governance. The truth is that if the electorate are politically illiterate, we can never have an advanced democracy. For example, how many of you even know your local government chairman? Can you indicate with a show of hands if you know your local government chairman? Okay, I can see 3 hands up. Okay, but I still won't say that's a good number in a class of 53. 4 hands. Okay, 5, 6. Okay, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's interesting. I'm glad that at least, though it's still not up to quarter of the class, but few persons know their local government chairman, right? So formal education is a way to propagate political literacy. And then the next is the culture of a place. For example, a lot of us think that you have to be an indigene before you can run in Abuja, for example. But do you know that anybody can actually run anywhere? You mustn't be an indigene. The requirement is that you have to be a citizen of Nigeria. That's all. So sometimes culture, the things that we've been handed down through word of mouth and all that, most of us do not confirm if it's true or not according to the Constitution. And if we're not careful, that can actually lead to wrong information via political literacy. And then the third is political party. Like my executive director always says, that the only vehicle to elected office is a political party. When we come to political parties, we have different types of primaries for you to be chosen as a flag bearer of your party. We have the direct primaries, the indirect primaries. I think we should pay attention to some of these things, because by the time you're divided into your different parties, you need to make use of this knowledge. So we have the direct primaries, and the direct is where every member of the party can participate in the voting, while the indirect is where delegates are chosen to represent the party. And then, of course, we have the consensus, where everybody agrees and say, okay, this is the person that we're going to bring forward as the flag bearer, and there's no need for voting. Yeah. And then we also have aspirants and candidates. Aspirant is the one who wants to aspire for a political office, while a candidate is the person that has run and won the primaries in his or her political party and is a flag bearer of the party. And then the media is also a way of propagating politeracy, even though the media doesn't always present things the way they should, but it should actually be an avenue to propagate the right politeracy. Electoral College, we've had our executive director especially, he's had a lot of TV time, radio time, we've had slots in the newspaper and all that. All these are ways for us to get the information out there, the right things out there, right? Social media is also a tool which is similar to what we're doing right now. The classes are online. We're making use of the social media. So it's also a tool to propagate political literacy. And then we have engagements. These are interactions with people, town hall meetings, you go to schools, you talk about it. In fact, one of the requirements at the end of this course will be that each political party, each pseudo-political party that you'll be shared into, you're going to have to carry out a project. Yes, you're going to choose the project you want to, and then you're going to carry it out. You're going to go out there and tell others about what you've learned. It could be in a school, whatever you want to do, but you're going to also pass on the knowledge. So this will be your project at the end of the course. So take note of this. That is also a way to get more people to become politically literate. Okay, so next we move to the different okay, before we move to the different arms of government, what is governance? Governance is the way and manner power is exercised in the management of a country's human, material, and economic resources. And then we have three arms of government. We have the legislative, we have the executive, and we have the judiciary. These arms of government, they are actually for separation of powers, so that the power is not just on the president. You know, most people think that the president is the beginning and the end, the alpha and omega. That's actually not correct. The separation of powers that's what the arm of governance is for. The legislative are those that, you know, make the laws. When you're hearing bills, we're talking about the legislative. Well, first, let me start with the executive, as that's the one most of us, you know, are familiar with. And then for also the executives, we have, I'm sure we know the different tiers of government, so which are the federal, the states, and then the local government. So for the executives, we also have appointed and elected executives. The elected executives on the federal level are the president and the vice president, while the appointed are the DGs, the executive secretaries, the chairman of parastatals and ministers. Yeah. And then on the state level, we have the elected executives as the governor and his deputy, while the appointed are the chairman, the executive secretaries, the SAs, and the commissioners. And then the local government, we have the local government chairman and his deputy as an elected executive. And then the appointed are the secretaries of health, education, etc. And then, you know, the PA, the SAs, and all that. Yeah. So for local governments, of course, we have 774 local governments in Nigeria currently. And then we'll move on to the legislative. We have the Federal and State House of Assembly. You know, Section 49 of the Constitution actually states that the House of Rep shall consist of 360 members representing constituencies from each state of the Federation, while the Senate will consist of 3 senators from each state and 1 from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. So the House of Reps are 360 in number, and they are usually referred to as the green chambers, while the senators are 109, and they're usually referred to as the red chambers. And then the councillors are like the House of Assembly of the local governments. You know, they are the House of Assembly at the local government level. Yes. And then we move over to the judiciary. You know, these are the lawyers, the Supreme Court, and all that. And the main person there is usually the Chief Justice of the Federation, which is by appointment. Okay. So if you have questions while the class is going on, you can just put it in the chat box. When I'm done with the class, we're going to take your questions. So how do we achieve good governance? You know, we talk about good governance, new Nigeria. How do we achieve that? The first is proper representation. Proper representation is very important to ensure that the separation gap between the elected and the people that are being governed is closed. You know, a lot of times we're quick to blame, you know, those up there, but it will interest you that sometimes they don't even know what's happening at the grassroots level. That's why when you're talking about governance, we are truly supposed to start from the local government. Like ED will always say, you know, he says that the local government is the first handshake, you know, to the people. So we're supposed to start from the grassroots. That is where the proper representation is going to take place. For example, the president does not know me yet. Let me say that. He doesn't know me, but it's expected that the councillors in my jurisdiction, the local government chairman and all that I'm supposed to interface with them, and they are supposed to be the representatives, you know, of the people at the grassroots level. And then the governor represents the state, you know, and then it goes like that. So it's very important to have proper representation. Another way is decentralization. You know, there's one example that Mr. Kunle always uses. I quote him a lot. He's my mentor, definitely. He's my leader. So I quote him a lot. He talks about decentralization, that why can't we have local government police? In a country of more than 100 million, and then we only have state police. So what happens to each local government? We should also have local government police. Abroad is usually called county police and all that. So this is a way to actually reduce the amount of power in the center, decentralization, so that you're going to be able to apportion different responsibilities to different people to manage at a lower level. And this way, they're going to be able to carry everybody along. Another way to propagate good governance is a level playing field. Let the voice of the people be heard. Let it not just be what a few just sit down and decide. No, let it be whatever action is taken, let it represent, the desires of the average Nigerian on the street. That is really the way that we can come to have good governance in Nigeria. Another way is the rule of law. Like I will say again, ED likes saying that the Constitution, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the Constitution. And this is true. There's nothing wrong with the Constitution. The problem is that we do not follow it. The law, there is nothing wrong with our laws. We have the Electoral Act, we have the Nigerian Constitution. Absolutely nothing is wrong with them. But we do not follow it a lot of times. And that's why it looks like, there's no law. But there is a law. The question is, are we following that law? Okay, I'll give you an example. I saw a news today of someone who was convicted of a rape crime, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. And then I was discussing with my husband, and he was saying that, is this sentence not too much? And I told him that is actually the sentence, for a person that has been convicted of a rape crime. But most people do not know that. It's not as if it's not available, but a lot of people do not know. And because it's usually not enforced, I think this is the first time that I'm actually hearing that someone is being given that sentence, for a rape crime. So because it's not enforced, a lot of people don't even know that law exists, right? Another example is last year we had 2 cases of local government chairmen that were impeached by councillors. A lot of people did not know that was possible, that local government chairmen could actually be impeached by the councillors in the state, but it happened. So that means that the problem is not the law. The issue is, are we following the law? Are we following the law? The National Assembly, they pass bills, but at the end of the day, those bills, if it has to do with them, then they have the authority to either reject it or pass it. For example, now, let's say that there's a bill that wants to be passed that their salaries should be cut. They have the right not to agree to that bill. So it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the law. It just means that the people at the helm of affairs, a lot of time, sorry about that. I think I got cut off momentarily. Let me just bring up my slide again. Hope we're all following. So another way that the law is good, but a lot of times we do not follow it, is that the idea of the different arms of government is for separation of powers. That's why we have the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. But the judiciary, for example, they don't have their own separate purse from where they are paid. They are paid from the purse of the executive. So when they need to pass laws, when they need to put the executive in check, how can they really achieve that? Like we all know the phrase, he who pays the piper dictates the tune, right? So if they are the ones that are paying them, then to an extent, the judiciary is actually, their authority, their unbiasedness can actually be called into question. So we're on how to achieve good governance. Yes. So I was talking of the rule of law. Another way to achieve that is by planning. Planning is very important. When you go to some of those countries that we all feel like, oh, they are developed countries, a lot of them have plans that span 100 years. Like they've already planned what 2100 year, would be like, even while we're still in 2024. So we need a lot of planning if we're really going to achieve good governance. We've had Vision 2010, Vision 2020, but how far has that gotten us? What have we done? The last time we had a census was 16 years ago. While the Constitution says it should be done every 10 years, we're coming back to what I said earlier, that there's nothing wrong with the Constitution. It's just that a lot of times we don't follow it. The Constitution says that a census should be done every 10 years, but the last time we had one was like 16 years ago. We're supposed to have another last year, but one way or the other, it still didn't happen. Another way for good governance and for propagating good governance is educated electorate. The electorate have to be educated, and that is what Electoral College is aiming to achieve. They're trying to bridge the gap between the electorate being unaware, being ignorant, and being educated. The truth is that till the majority of the electorate are educated, good governance might still be a struggle. Like a lot of things that I've said today, I'm sure some of us, we probably just heard that for the first time. But if you knew this all along, I'm sure there'll be a different way that you approach, probably how you approach, your local government chairman, how you be more intentional about following up, about demanding accountability. Next, we go to enhancing good governance. How can we enhance it? The first is by participation. Participation is very key. It's more than just being a voter. It was awesome the last election, people came out en masse to vote and all that. It's awesome, but that's not where it should stop. Join a political party. Become politically literate. I'm glad that a lot of us are attending this course. It shows that we're trying to be intentional about our knowledge on how these things operate, how they work. So participation is very key. Don't just stop at attending this course. Join a political party. Start becoming active. In fact, run for office. That's how we can all participate. And then, the new Nigeria that we've always been clamoring for will become a reality. Another way to enhance governance is by solution-oriented mechanisms. We need to start thinking ahead and intelligently before situations arise. An example was the subsidy removal, how it was removed all of a sudden, and then it was afterwards that different measures were now trying to be put in place, palliative measures and all that. These were things that should have been put in place before the removal. So we need to think ahead and plan intelligently before situations arise. We need to be solution-oriented. We should not be on the defense. We're always looking for you're always trying to, after the deed has been done, you're trying to manage it, you're trying to do damage control. No, we should always look for how to plan ahead. And then we need to have financially unattractive offices. This is very important. This is very important. For example, now, a House of Rep member, the basic is 750. But when you're talking of take home, it spans up to 48 million per month. The cost of governance is very high. In other countries, the barest minimum is what these elected officers are paid. Wow, because you're supposed to be a public servant. You're supposed to serve the public. You're there to serve. You're not there to enrich yourself. You're not there to amass wealth for you and your third and fourth generation. You're not there to become, answered prayer to all the people in your village. No, you're there to serve the interest of the country. Nigeria first. ED will always say that we win when Nigeria wins. That is supposed to be the mindset of the average public servant. But most people go there to have their own share of the national cake, like we all like to say. So we should have financially unattractive offices. That's those that are vying for office. That these people are going to this position because they want to serve, because they want to lead, because they want to improve the country, because they have the love of country in their hearts. They are not going there to enrich themselves. So by the time the offices become financially unattractive, we're going to be able to differentiate those that are really going there for the right motives and those that are just going there for selfish interest. And then understanding by the electorate of elected office, jurisdiction, and powers. This is similar to what we've been saying all along. You have to know before you can demand accountability. You have to know. It will interest you that the president can have an opinion, but he doesn't even have the power to pass bills. That power is invested in the National Assembly. So even though the president wants to take a decision, the National Assembly now has to make that bill sail through. They have to sit on it and then say, okay, this bill has been passed, this bill has been voted on. Public servants should be focused on serving the public, like the name implies. So I think I'll just give room for questions at this juncture. But before I do that, I would like to leave you with this quote by Abigail Spamberger. And she says that good governance should be an expectation, not an exception. It should be an expectation and not an exception. So when people are doing the right thing, it should not be an exception. It should not be like, oh my goodness, that person is doing awesomely well. It should be the expectation. It should be the barest minimum. All right, thank you so much, everyone. And at this juncture, I would like to take questions, if there are any.
Okay, thank you very much, DED, for that great introduction. I believe we are ready gingered and ready for the course. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box or raise your hands. Okay, I can see one question in the chat box. It says, how do you communicate the needs of the community to our leaders? Should I take all the questions or I should take them one by one?
Okay, no, I think you should just take them one by one. So
okay.
Yeah, so I don't forget any. Okay, how do you communicate your concerns to your leaders? Like I said earlier, that we're supposed to start from the grassroots. Right now, if you want to get access to the president, that is almost impossible, except you are the president's firstborn, or you are the friend of the president's child or something, So if you want to get access, that is almost impossible. But you have access to your councillors. You have access to your local government chairman. These are the reasons why they were elected. You should be able to walk into their offices and state your concerns. You should be able to write to them. How many of us even know where our councillors, where they're even staying? Like, you should have access to them. That is the idea of it. So please, I hope that answered your question. The onus is on you to actually go and find them out, and table your request before them.
Okay, thank you very much, Didi. I believe your question was answered, Mohammed. Okay, the next question here is from Haruna. He says, my question is, I don't get it clearly about level playing field. So I don't know which.
Okay, when I'm saying level playing field, we mean that everybody should have a say. Like the desires of the average Nigerian should be what is being actualized. It should not be that the decisions that are taken are just benefiting a few persons. It should not be that it is just a particular cabal, or a particular set of people that any decision is taken is favoring. It's supposed to favor the average Nigerian. It is when we get to this level that we know that, yes, we truly have a level playing field, where the desires of the average common man is granted, is being done, in the country. At this point in time, with the high rate of insecurity, I think one of the desires of every Nigerian is to have security, to be able to travel from Kaduna to Abuja, Abuja to Jos without having to bathe yourself in anointing oil as a Christian, or as a Muslim, having to, have to recite all the surahs that you have while you're on that road, just because of insecurity. So these are the desires of the average Nigerian. And if this can be tackled, then we'll know that indeed we have a level playing field. I hope that answered your question. Next question, Charlie.
Okay. Next question. What's the difference between politeracy and advocacy? Can we have this presentation, please?
Okay. Well, I'm not going to be the one that will really talk about advocacy. We have a class that is dedicated to that, and the facilitator is a very vibrant vibrant person. It's a class that you're going to enjoy. So we're going to go in depth into that in that class. Politeracy majorly is teaching you about politics and governance, like I said earlier, being literate in politics and governance, while advocacy is a different kettle of fish on its own. It's, trying to advocate, trying to make your voice heard. Yes, so politeracy is getting the knowledge, while advocacy is actually putting that knowledge into practice. That is the summary of it, but you get to learn more about it in the advocacy class.
Okay, Charlie, has this question been taken? I would like to ask, sorry to interrupt, this question about in your discussion of how to achieve good governance, you did mention colonial legacy, the British colonial rule leaving behind weak institutions, ethnic and religious divisions, and a culture of patronage. Military rule, decades of rule and corruption undermined democratic and staffing civic liberties. I want to ask, are these part of the problems of good governance in Nigeria also? Has that question been taken?
No, we haven't gotten to that either.
Okay, when you get there, I would love to answer that question.
Yes, Edie will definitely do justice to that question. Though I can't remember talking about British colonialism, but maybe I did mention that, but I can't remember. But I'm sure Edie will do justice to that. Edie, I think you can just answer that before we continue with others.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. This is a great question. First, I'll start with one. Colonial legacy, the British colonial rule leaving behind weak institutions, ethnic and religious divisions, and a culture of patronage. First, I'd like to say there's a culture of what we believe exists, and there's what actually existed. So Nigerians wrote their independence constitution themselves. So if the British colonial rule left behind weak institutions, the independence constitution should have helped with that, and the republic constitution should have helped with that. I think that is an excuse which citizens make in Nigeria to buttress the fact that we've messed up good governance. I don't think it's the kind of thought process we're trying to promote within the college. I think we need to understand and face things. So there's what we believe is a culture in Nigeria, and then there's what is law. There are two different things. And you need to understand that whatever you might believe before this, we're not asking you to wipe it. We're asking you to open your mind to understand, to have a broader understanding of what actually is. So blaming colonial legacy, I don't think that would be key. That would be anything. Now, to military rule, decades of military rule and corruption, undermining democratic processes and stifling civic liberties. Now, I'm going to ask a critical question back. Let me see who asked this question. Uyore Justin Agogo. I'd love to ask you a question back. If you're conversant with the effect of the work of local governments under the military rule, how is it local governments were more functional? You had LEs, you had local primary healthcare centers, you had ALGON, which is the Association of Local Government Chairman, giving the first jeeps we ever saw to the police. How were they more functional in a military rule than they are in a democracy? So when you say undermining democratic processes, you cannot put it as a full blanket. Yes, the constitution is suspended when the military takes over, but we also have imbibed the culture where we just discussed Mr. President alone. So it seems we're still in military rule based on our culture of thought and not in a democracy. How many of you have spoken about your local governments? You're going to deal with these things as you go over our courses in this college. You're going to understand these differences. And then you want to ask, are these part of the problems of good governance? I will tell you, the first problem of good governance in Nigeria is that you cannot have a good democracy if you do not have a politically literate society. So I'll give you an example. If I ask any one of you what you demand from your senators, 80% of you are going to talk about constituency projects, which are definitely not constitutional. So I'd like to understand, what exactly are you demanding? Do you for you to demand from a good democracy, you need to understand the way it works. Are you conversant with PAC allocations that are given to local governments? Do you understand that local government chairmen do not have immunity? Are you aware that the Constitution does not say states should be autonomous? So it shouldn't say LG should be autonomous. Are you aware that LGs have provisions to take over security in their jurisdictions? Are you aware of such matters? Now, these are the matters we are trying to introduce to you and trying to expose you to. So you'd have to be a little patient with, what has been. I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of damage being done by news media. There's a lot of damage. We hold the fourth estate very responsible for quite a lot of things, and you'll be dealing with the fourth estate in this course. And we also know that we'll try our best to try and unravel these things. But, it's not something that's going to happen in a day. So just sit back, enjoy the ride. Most of your questions will be answered. I don't want to preempt any course or say anything that any lecturer will take in the future. So just understand that whatever culture you already have, we would attempt to introduce you to a new culture, which is being Nigerian. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edie. I believe your question was answered. Yes. So moving on to the next question from Ajibadi. He says, how many House of Representatives do we have per state?
Okay, don't mind me. I was enjoying Edie's answer so much that I forgot I was back up. Okay, like I said earlier, we have 360 for the House of Rep, and then we have 109 for the senators. For the senators, we have 3 senators from each state, and then 1 from the Federal Capital Territory, and that makes up 109. While for the House of Reps, we have 360. The House of Reps are called the green chambers, while the senators are called the red chambers. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Didi. The next question, I want to confirm what she said about contesting for office. She said you don't have to be a citizen of a local government to contest. Which position is that valid for?
Do I answer that?
Okay, go ahead, Didi.
Okay then. I'd like to answer that. You're from Kwara State. What's her name? I didn't catch the name. Charlie, did you catch the name?
Ademola Moses.
Ademola Moses. You're from Kwara State. I'm from Kwara State too. I ran for Senate in the FCT in 2019. I don't come from Abuja. I just lived in Abuja for 23 years. So the Constitution and any party's constitution. So let's not only say the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We're going to say the constitution of 18 political parties. No party demands you to run from whatever state you're from. All that, go to your ward and go and get a whatever, is a culture we have imbibed into our politics. There's no law backing it, because if there's a law in any of the party constitutions, it is written in the Nigerian constitution that the constitution supersedes any, and party constitutions are not even an act. So don't even go there. They're just for people that are an association. So yes, I'm also ancestrally from Kwara State, though I feel myself more a Zaria boy. I was born and raised there. So you can run anywhere in the country. The question is now, are you popular enough to win? That's the question. Are you ready to fiddle around? Are you ready to fiddle around non-indigenous votes that will probably support you in that state? Yes, you can. And if you want to ask whether this has happened before, it's happened multiply. I'll give a case of Faleke, who was deputy governor to the late Alhaji Idris, who won the Kogi State gubernatorial elections before it was handed over to Yahaya Bello, who went back onto Lagos to continue as the House of Rep, and I believe he's still sitting as House of Rep in Lagos State. We've had pockets of a lot of this across. That was just the first example that came to my head. And then I wouldn't tell you to do what I've not done before. So you can cross-reference my name. My name is Kunle Lawal. I ran for Senate in 2019. It was a great run in Abuja FCT. And I think that answers your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edie. The next question, do we get a copy of the Constitution during the class?
Yes, definitely. You will. In fact, there's an app. We're going to share the link where you can actually download the Nigerian Constitution. I actually have the app on my phone. So it's an app that everybody should have. Like Edie always says that the Constitution is supposed to be the Bible of every Nigerian. So yes, we'll share that. And then you also get a copy of the Electoral Act, the 2022 Electoral Act. Yeah.
Okay, the next question, I believe Edie just answered that. Okay. Please, Ma, I'll plead that you come back on the numbers you gave in your explanation pertaining local governments in Nigeria, House of Reps, commissioners, etc.
Okay, the numbers. I think I answered that recently about the 360 House of Rep and 109 senators. And then for local governments, we have 774 local governments currently. So those are the numbers.
Okay. The next question, how many of us are passionate about contesting? But the issue is the funding. The money for purchasing tickets is too much. How can we go about that? Even with the not too young to roll bill, it still didn't serve much purpose during the nepotism.
So I don't understand.
Okay, I don't need that. Yeah, that's the question.
So let someone who's run for office answer that question. I don't understand how you say you're passionate and you're not working towards it. Power is not delivered to anybody. As they say, power is not served a la carte. But you think you just want to walk in the room because you are young? Come on, you have to show some skill now. I would say during my campaign, I raised approximately 39.5 million in campaign funding, crowdfunding. If you have the passion to do something, the problem in Nigeria is that we wait for the day they start selling campaign forms. Then all of a sudden you have a knee-jerk decision that you want to lead your people. You don't. That's not how it works. It's supposed to be a calculated attempt. You're supposed to understand that there are parameters, and then you're supposed to understand there's a time frame. So you build your network, you build the people you want to work with, you build with people that want to see you in office, and then you could get things. And sometimes, apart from buying the form, I can tell you that while running for office, some boreholes that were done, some signboards that were done by people that I barely even knew that joined me on the campaign. There are a lot of things that, came to the campaign because I was doing something right, or somebody saw me on TV and I was like, man, I think this guy knows what he's doing. So if you carry that mindset and say clearly that you are going to run for office, but the funds are not there. Who has ever done anything great? With great reward comes greater risk. And you need to understand what you're doing. You can't just wake up and say, in 2026 and just say, everybody's running, not too young to run. I want to run too. Or hey, they are giving out free forms. Like I was never a support of free forms for young people or whatever, because you have a primaries to battle. The form is nothing. Are you going to get the flag of your party? That's the question. So have you participated in the party long enough for you to have that kind of impact? So these are the kind of things. Running for office is a premeditated attempt. It's strategy. It's long term. It's not something you just wake up and just say, I feel like, and I'm going to get there. This is not to say that there's no 6%. There's an exemption to every rule that just did it and it happened. But it might not happen for you. And I would prescribe long wait, long run, long plan, the process, the thought, this thing. How can you even buy a campaign form when you can't even get 17 people on a WhatsApp for your campaign team on a WhatsApp group? That's the question. If you can't get 17 people, how are you even going to get 17,000 naira for people to donate? Start to think of it that way, and you might have a chance in politics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edie. So the next question. Okay, there are roadblocks to a strong democracy in Nigeria at all levels of government, triggered by political competition and communal ethnic religious or resource allocation rivalries, which poses a major threat to democracy. And again, corruption seems to pervade the daily lives of Nigerians. How can Politeracy help resolve some of these issues? Didi.
Oh, okay. I didn't know I was muted. All right. Well, like we always say that the first step is even knowing. When you know about something, then you can start taking the different steps. You can start taking the different decisions that is going to impact that thing positively. One of the things that I said earlier that you're going to do is have a class on advocacy. In that class, you tell you how to advocate for your voice to be heard, issues that are on ground, and then you need it to come to the attention of the right people. In that class, you're going to be taught. So different courses in this, during the duration of this course are going to address the different aspects of this question that you have. So Politeracy actually has an impact on what you know and what you can do. Like a facilitator always says that when you know better, you do better. So yes, Politeracy will have an effect at the end of this course when you're done. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. The next question, in consideration of the fact that parties and individuals who are known can generate followership, how do average Nigerians take power? Where the saying still speak true? If you can't beat them, you join them.
Well,
Okay.
I'll still say this appeals to your mindset. You see that culture that we're trying to wipe from you, that's the culture that is making this conversation. First and foremost, who said parties and individuals who are known can generate followership? I'm not saying they can't, but who is saying that you can't? That's the question. And I will tell you something. Maybe I will say I admire, and I like using myself as an example because I'm close to explaining this. There was a time when I don't think anybody outside Amak in Abuja knew me. Now I'll be hard. I'm talking Nigeria generally. And so it's hard work. Yes, parties do hard work. You must do hard work. Followership is generating a followership is hard work. Yes, you should generate. But the question I'm going to ask you is you generally as an individual, what's the name? Let me go over the name again. Muhammad Ibrahim. I'm going to ask you, what are you known for? Why should people follow you? If you don't have the answer to that question, people aren't just going to follow you. Nowhere in the world, in any democracy, and I think I advise democracies outside this country, no one is going to follow you because you want to run. That's not how it works. You must have generated the right, and this answer is close to what people follow. I'll answer the second question also on this. So people follow what has shown them can lead them. And the follow-up question seems to match it also from Precious. Do people follow based on ideology only? No, people follow for different reasons. GRV in Lagos, who ran for governor, was also with me in Koa. I believe we spent a lot of time in Koa together, and his first ticket when I was running for chairman of the Keja was while I was national publicity secretary of Koa Party. And the truth was there were people following GRV of the Labour Party in Lagos because he was fine. I'm being honest. There are people that will follow him because they thought I think there was this time he was wearing a t-shirt and he looked well ripped. And then girls in Lagos are just talking about it. I have a friend who ran in Owerri, Obi now under the ADC, and people loved him because he wore glasses and thought he looked cute and intelligent. They didn't care about the legislative talk he was talking about. I have friends that ran in Kaduna. You get Murtala Baloni, who I think is chairman Kaduna Central LG. Is a personal friend, and people ran because Murtala was cool. Murtala was cool growing up, man, and everybody liked him. Nice watch, nice shoes. He was always up to date with things. People supported him because of that. So people support, and it's like that all over the world. People love Trump because it sounds like what they call it, like he's rebirthed the Ku Klux Klan, and white supremacists think he's cool. Religious people also attract. Trump attracts religious people because he brought prayer back into the White House. So there are different reasons people follow everybody's, not based on any basic ideology. The truth about politics, which you need to understand, which you eventually will get at the end of this course, is that the people don't even know what they want, and that's the truth. But you'd realize that naked truth somewhere at the end. But before now, let's not preempt ourselves. Let's not jump ahead of the gun. Let's not, just know that with every class will come a new revelation. As you go in depth into everything, you're going to finally understand why exactly people make their choices. Sometimes people make their choices just because you're from the same tribe with them. Sometimes they make it because, I saw him in my church because he comes to my church. People thought it was a joke when Sanwo-Olu went to his church and was shaking people. People thought, a lot of people forgave him and said, this guy seems, they disliked him, but they were like, this guy seems humble enough. He came to church and he stood outside and was shaking everybody. He's humble. His next time he'll be humble. And that's enough in politics. And I'll tell you, and I reiterate this, the people do not know what they want. If you ask anybody, they will tell you, give the power to the young people. Good governance has no direction on gender, age, or religion, or ethnicity. A 70-year-old president might be the best president we could have. A 21-year-old could also be. Do you understand? And those parameters are not set by anybody. It's the individual, who he is, how he's able to carry his charisma in government, and how much he loves his country. I think the parameter we should be looking for whenever we're talking about things is not ideology, but who loves this country. To me, if you ask me, if I look across all Nigerian presidents, it's a long time we've had a Nigerian president. We've had Hausa presidents, we have Yoruba presidents, we have South president. We've not had a Nigerian president, someone who loves this country for what it actually is. Thank you very much.
Very much, Edie, for that. We have hands raised. Okay, I'll just ask you to unmute and then ask your question. Okay, Abayomi, sorry. Abayomi, ask you to unmute.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Wumi Hassan Bello, and thank you, Edie. So let's go straight to my question. Today has been really insightful. So you had mentioned under the enhancing governance point, you had mentioned making public offices financially unattractive as being one of the ways that we can enhance good governance. So I feel that sometimes when people are not given enough, it could become a reason why they take. I mean, if you see kids who are well fed at home and you give them food, they're like, oh, thank you, I'm fine, and all of that. So I'm like trying to balance that. I'm trying to balance that point as opposed to understanding how I know there is greed, but I'm trying to balance that into understanding how into my basic understanding of how human psychology works. But I'm particularly speaking to public offices, not public servant offices, not people who are elected, people that work in ministries and all of that. Sometimes they are not well paid, and there are young people like me who want to go into the public sector to work, but the pay doesn't look like what it is. Like I don't think I can live on 100,000 or 150,000 in the current economy. So how do you balance that? That's my first question. My second question is under the how to achieve good governance point. You had made points on proper representation and planning, but I didn't really get those points very well. So I was going to ask if you could just touch on that again. And then my last question is really about how do you win an election in the right way in the face of a compromised majority? So when I say a compromised majority, I mean, for example, people who don't even know what they want for starters, people who are so hungry that they will really just go with the highest bidder. How do you rationally start planning to win elections and win right when there's already something fundamentally wrong with the people who are going to vote? Yeah, so 3 questions.
Wow. Okay, 3 questions. Abayomi, right? Okay,
Yes,
so I'll start with the first one. By saying making offices financially unattractive does not mean not giving them finances. So I'll give you an example. If I ask the average Nigerian, how much do you think the president's salary is? Do you know how much it is? It's approximately, it's in the range of almost 2 million. The vice president earns about 1.5 million. Senator's salary, exactly basic, is about 500,000. Well, here's the catch. When we get to senators, the salary is 500,000. Allowances, which include newspaper, wardrobe, etc., runs up to 36 million. And if you are in the right committee, let's say NNPC and co, the givings for that committee could raise your earnings to close to 42 million. 42 million a month, that is absolutely ludicrous. And I'm sure you would agree with that. So we're not even speaking to, when you say financially unattractive, we're not speaking to the salaries. Because if you go across the salaries of every person, it's nothing. It's the allowances that are the problems. And therein lies the problem. So if we're able to cut these allowances, why should we give them a newspaper allowances? If you go to Congress in Sweden, in the US, and etc., they have a common room where all the newspapers are being placed. You pick your turn and read. They buy multiple of those newspapers. Why should we provide a newspaper allowance of more than 1.2 million to every senator and House of Rep? That is 360 people plus 109, making 469 National Assembly members, multiplied by 1.2 million. You know how much that costs Nigeria per month? On just newspapers. On just newspapers. Is that sensible? So that is what that point is about. Now, your second question was as regards planning. I don't know how this planning was used. Could you just reiterate it to me how planning was used in this thing? Abayomi, it's okay. You can unmute and ask. Unmute Abayomi, please. Maureen, are you there? Chalia, could you unmute Abayomi, please?
Okay. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
So
I'm not a sir. I've not been knighted by the King of England, so I'm not a sir. Thank you.
So just to answer the direct question you asked, planning and proper representation was used under.
I've asked him to mute.
Yes.
You said?
Planning and proper representation was asked under the context of how to achieve good governance. But then before you proceed, sir, I just wanted to give a comment about the last question.
Sir again. Okay.
Sorry. Like it's in my language, so but I'll watch it. I'll watch it. So I've heard a senator made a case on TV, yeah, and he gave justification to the big allowances that they got, and it made sense to me. And basically, what he said was that they have offices in Abuja, and they have offices in their constituencies, and then they have staffs that work with their office to achieve certain things, yeah. And he's like, I don't get exceptional money to pay this staff. So out of the money that I get to earn, out of the allowances I earn as a senator, I get to settle those staff. And then my constituency doesn't just understand that I come here to represent them. They also think that for everything I'm getting, they also have a share. So when I get back home,
Abayomi, I'm sure everybody's trying to cut time, so let's not go too long over this.
Okay.
Number one, constitutionally, no House of Rep or Senator should have more than 5 essays. Constitutionally backed. When we will get to that part, we are not there yet. You'll get to that part. So his argument is null and void. The second question is, nowhere in the world do they provide houses for senators and co in the capital. What happens is you come for your Congress meeting and you get the hell back to your constituency. I can show you constituency offices of senators and House of Rep across board that people have not been there in ages. And that is the situation. Now, as regards planning, as was mentioned in good governance. Now, Nigeria always says, we're going to have cassava by 2023. I'll give you an example with agriculture. We want to be agriculturally self-reliant. Now, Nigeria exports approximately $1 billion worth of cocoa per year. That's a great thing, right? You're alluding that it's a great thing? Your mic is still on, right?
I muted it. 1 billion,
okay.
1 billion USD is a significant part of our
okay,
our,
wait. Yeah, because you're not looking at the big picture. Now I'm going to tell you something. We import approximately $7 billion of cocoa derivatives. That is flakes, chocolates, etc., etc. So now, do you think it's brilliant? You give out 1 billion and you import 7 billion. That's a loss of $6 billion. You understand? So, see, it's not about production alone. Till we start processing, and that's the planning we're talking about. Till we start processing this agricultural produce, that and not only looking at just exporting value, so that when we know the good is going out, it's going out and bringing us forex completely. Not like we do with our fuel. We have fuel domiciled, we do not refine it, we export it and sell it out, then we buy it back refined. That is a loss, don't you think? Or would you be growing tomatoes in your house, sell the tomatoes to your neighbor, and then your neighbor makes stew, and then you buy that, you sell the tomatoes 500 naira, then you buy stew from your neighbor 2K5. Does that make sense? And that's what we're talking about planning. So your last question was what? So that we can go to other people. Hello? Charlie, please, could you unmute him? Charlie, where are you, please?
Yes, I've asked him to unmute.
How do we win elections right in the face of a compromised majority who don't even know what they want?
Abayomi, if I knew the answer to that question, I will be president. Don't you think? So, but I'll tell you something. There's a common trick, and it's a very simple trick. What the ears hear and what the eyes see, the mind believes. If you're able to make that conformity, hear and think exactly what you think, then it means their minds will believe you are the right choice. You are able to achieve that. I think that should answer your question the best way possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibi. Abayomi, I believe your question was answered. Okay, Ayodeji, I'll ask you to unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. You can go ahead.
Okay. It's such a joy to be here. Thank you for the session. We really do appreciate it. So I'd like to go straight to my question. So the question is, okay, if you were to design an ideal political system, what key principles or values would it actually prioritize? That's my question. Do you get that?
If I were to design,
Yes, sir.
Notice, I'll say this again. But if I were to design a perfect, ideal, the first thing is you cannot build anything. And I always say this, you can't build anything without love for a country or a nation. What's missing in Nigeria is the fact that we see ourselves as 250 countries in one state. And that's always been our problem anywhere. So the fact that we can't see ourselves as one indivisible unit, it's a big problem. It's a big problem. Like, let me throw something to the class. And this is, so the first constitution of a country in the world is San Marino. I believe the first constitution of a town is Monaco. I can't remember. I think 1500. Sorry, pardon my memory. I can't pull the numbers off my head. I'm an old man. I don't remember things that much. Then the first constitution of a people that allowed women to participate in governance and also govern actually belongs to the people of Eastern Nigeria. Isn't that a good thing for Nigeria to? And at this time, they came up with this constitution. This was say the 1400s about. Europe was in the dark ages. Now, here's the question. If you tell Nigerians that, what are they going to turn it to? Igbos are better than Yorubas. Is that not the argument they will turn it into? Instead of projecting that we actually should teach Europe and the rest of the world what democracy actually means. So do you see where I say to build an ideal? I use this to buttress my point. To build an ideal situation, an ideal political system, let's say in Nigeria, you first must love a country. I put that above every other thing. I don't even have any other thing to add. That would be strictly what I would place first. Everything else falls under it.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, Edie. Thank you very much, Edie. I believe your question was answered. Okay. So do we have more questions, or we should call it a day? Okay, no more questions. Thank you very, very much, DED, Politeracy, Mrs. Wumi Lisabello. That was very insightful. I believe we are all set and ready for the class. So we'll continue tomorrow and Sunday. Please take note of all the information.
No, thank you. No, thank you to me. You are sad.
Sorry, Edie. Edie, I'm not yet done. Thank you very much, Edie, for answering our questions. We'll have more of Edie in the class. So this is just a warm-up. So thank you very much, everyone. Edie, do you have anything for us?
No, not really. Just keep your eyes on the Telegram page as you'll be shared into your parties, like I said earlier. So make sure you join just the party, exactly the party that you're shared into. Please note that even if you already belong to a political party, whatever party you're shared into is the party you should join. Any alteration to that, you're going to be put out of the college. We've told you now.
Please
so that
remind them that classes are 5 p.m.
When
Friday.
when ED starts, nobody will come and beg me because I won't go and beg for anybody. All right, so thank you, everyone. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Please remind them that classes are 5 Friday to Sunday. You get the hang of it. Classes are 5 p.m. Friday to Sunday. Thank you very much.
Yes, Fridays to Sundays, 5 p.m. And please make sure you read all the announcements on the Telegram group. Maureen has been doing a great job. Make sure you pull up on every announcement there. So see you all tomorrow and have a nice evening.